Welcome people. So today on the Galactic Talk, your host Taino L and our star speaker for session 42, we have the honor of having Nicolya Christi. Nicolya, welcome and greetings.
Thank you, Dano. Thank you for inviting me.
All right, so just to let you know, so with Nicolya, I'm gonna read um, excerpt from her bio, and then we're gonna cover, all right, metaphysical experiences known as OBE, so out of body experiences, and we're gonna also address a key, I'm gonna say cosmical importance is the aspect of divine love. All right, so without further ado, people, Nicolia, so allow me to read from Nicolya website, all right, key part of the bio. So Nicolya Christi is a visionary, futurist, and author. She recently completed her debut novel, the first of a trilogy of books interweaving, defining historical timelines and epic fiction based on fact story for times to be published soon. All right, so Nicolya's work is found on spirituality, metaphysics, philosophy, and psychology. She has developed various psycho-spiritual maps and models for evolving consciousness and bring unique new theories to the psychological and spiritual domains, all of which are inspired by extensive personal experiences in these fields. All right. So between June 1997 and November 2002, she underwent multiple out of body experiences, which include mystical encounters, a life changing experience of conscious dying in March of 2002, and a consciousness transforming experience of enlightenment in October 2009. So, just to start, Nicolya, could you share, please, to the audience, uh, when you first start having those out of body experiences in 1997, how did you cope with all this new uh, life changing moments and to get the I'm gonna call it to get the fear out of the way for you to continue and evolve in that journey.
Yes, thank you for your question, Dana. Well, it's interesting because I had actually been praying fervently for 2 or 3 years before the first of those happened. And I have been praying to be a channel, a vessel for spirit, for love in capitals on this planet, and had surrendered my life to spirit / love. And yeah, given my life and said, this is what I'm here for. I'm here to be love, and put me wherever you need on the planet. I'm here. So I gave myself in that way. I committed again and again and again and again and again. And then I had the first of those OBEs in June 1997. And as I write in the book, they happened quite regularly all the way up until November 2002. And I didn't really feel fear about them. I didn't know, I never had any experience like that before. So I didn't know what was going on, but I trusted. I knew something extraordinary was going on, and I trusted. And so I didn't feel fear around that. What was a struggle was what was happening in my body when the experiences happened, because as my spirit was out of my body, there was this constant, again, I write about it, so I don't want to repeat too much what's already in the book, but there was this constant vibrating going on in my body, powerful, powerful, powerful vibrating, which I describe as like I was living in London at the time. It was like being, somebody getting my wrists and just slamming them against a generator for the whole of London, my wrists being wet and slamming them against a power generator for the whole of London. And that's what was going through my body. And that was what was unbearable. But the rest of it, there was no fear.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. So there's a key date, all right? So March 16, 2002. Another OB, all right, moment. So you had the choice of choosing the spirit world or incarnate a aspect of your soul from the future. So that was on page 21. Could you please share that instant experience to the people and how everything had manifested?
Yeah. Well, I'd had the 5 years of the OBEs very, very regularly. And, the physical level, I guess medics would have said, I'd fried my nervous system because of the electricity, the energy that was going through my body on those experiences. But what I feel had happened is that I had done so much work on myself. I had been spiritually awake since I was 17. And by the time the first OBE happened, I'd already started a very, very deep psycho-spiritual journey, a psychological journey. I spent 5 years leaving no stone unturned with my own shadow work. And my sense is that what happened is I'd arrived at that point where in normal circumstances and maybe on another timeline, I had died at that point. But now it was like I had this choice, as who I was before, that was the end of that lifetime. But I had the opportunity to come back, probably because I had done so much, because I was so committed. And so that's what happened. So I had a conscious dying experience where I experienced myself dying and coming back. And it took 7 years, almost to the month, because I had the death experience on Easter Sunday, 2002. And it was around probably within a week of that, in the March of 2009, that I had that first sense of I was coming back again, in the respect that the title for my very first book, 2012 Clarion Call, dropped into my consciousness out of nowhere. I'd never written anything. And I suddenly got very clearly I needed to write a book. It was about 2012, and I knew nothing about 2012 at that point because I'd been off radar for 7 years, out of life completely. And I came back on very, very quickly. And 3 books later, and now the novel, here I am.
Mm-hmm. So you mentioned, so you had that, aspect of dying experience. So just an analogy. I could recall prior of coming back on Earth years ago, I did saw myself as a light being, waiting and just waiting my time to enter the portals of Earth and going into my mother's womb. So could you describe, because in this is really not the description, there's no such on the physical world, there's no such familiarities to define this, because it's in other dimensions different to what the people may go through every day. Could you describe when you were at that particular moment and location, just a description, while you had to choose, you see, of the spirit world and incarnate the aspect of your soul from the future?
It's not even something that was a conscious experience. The conscious experience in the unconscious state, as it were, was an awareness of hovering above my body. And my body had aged to like 85, long silver hair splayed out behind me, very, very skeletal, lying on a bed. I knew I was going. And that was the I guess that was the confirmation that that's exactly what was happening. So I was hovering, suspended in that sort of choice moment. And it wasn't a conscious choice. So it was something that I can't put words to. It's just something I knew. I talk about gnosis a lot, Gnosis. Gnosis is to know how we know. We don't know how we know. We just know we know. And it was something I gnosised when I came back in. I knew that I had incarnated a future self. And actually what happened is 4 years later, the New Earth channeling, which I've written in the book as well, came through me because somebody actually said to me, are you from the future? And I said, why are you saying that? And they're like, well, I just sense you are. It's like, yes. And they said, well, can you write about it? And I said, sure. And actually, I'd never done it before. I'd never even written about where that is from, that future world, that future Earth, that future space. And then that came out of me in minutes. And that's in the book. It's the first time I've ever published it. It came through in 2006, and it's the first time I've published it, all of it. I've published, on social media posts, snippets here, snippets there, but never the whole thing. So yeah, it's not, in answer to your question, it's not a moment. It wasn't a defining moment of, oh my God, I can see light beings ahead of me. I've seen them, but not in that incident. That was just, I was out, I died, I came back, and it wasn't easy coming back physically. It was agony. It's the worst kind of pain and the worst kind of harrowing sensation I've ever had in a body was when I came back in again. But what I understood was that I had reincarnated and I had missed out, the infancy, the toddlerhood, the young child, the teenager, all of that, to incarnate. And that was 20 years ago next year, 20 years ago. So I kind of say to people that really, I'm probably, I don't believe in Earth Age and stuff, but I'm probably 20 because that's how long I've been here in this form.
All right, I got you. And so, still with OBE, you wrote that in November of 2002, there was this experience where you were being attacked by entities, all right? And you had to manage to change your vibrational frequencies, all right, to get the top of it. So I'm putting offenses of this because I've known that people did share to me that, on the astral, they did went through similar stuff, right? So based on this experience, could you, and the best advice comes from experience. Could you tell the experience and what it meant for you in your journey, that particular experience?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, I was really, really ill at that point. I was still hovering around death at that point. And yeah, I think it was a very empowering moment, from a spirit soul perspective, because, I'd had those experiences one other time. I think it was in March actually of that same year. And what it showed me experientially is that when you recite sacred mantra, or you recite high vibrational, high frequency sounds and pitches and tones, because that's what words are. Words are sound, pitches and tones, and they are loaded with the projection of what a human being is made of that word. So for example, an expletive is loaded in negative vibration because it's how we perceive that expletive, but that expletive is just a set of letters in a certain sequence, but we have projected a very negative connotation. We've associated very negative connotation with that word. And likewise, we've done the same with, in quotes, the sacred words. So, one can really argue with the fact that all words are sacred at source. But again, it's what humankind does with anything and everything. It separates, it divides, it has good, bad, black, white, evil, pure, whatever. so what it showed me in that experience in November, by reciting those phrases that we as humans associate with high vibration and high frequency, the entities had to let go, because they cannot cling on to a high vibration, high frequency. They're not able to. They can only cling on to a like vibration or a low vibration. And when one is ill, when one is close to death, when one has to be very careful, and again, in the Western world, especially, we've lost the understanding, if you like, the art and science of dying. We don't understand that in that moment where the veils are thinnest, there is an astral world. And, most people navigate their way through that. They have protectors step forward, protectors come from the other side, and they take them over. But, when you're in your body and you're having a psychic attack, you're still incarnate and being caught in that space when you're very ill. It's not pleasant. So that's how I managed to let them go. And I'd been talking about that for a long time. I often had people on session, saying, oh, I think I'm, there's a haunting in the house, or I think I'm possessed, or, what do I do? What shaman do I go to see? What potions do I take? And it's like, you don't do any of that. You don't need to do any of that. Raise your vibration by raising your consciousness, purifying your thoughts, purifying your lifestyle. And slowly but surely your vibration will become so high that nothing negative can attach to it. You will be protected. And I had a dose of my own medicine in November 2002.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. So you acquired several key information for yourself throughout this journey. So now I do want to talk about the experience of healing work that occurred at the intensive care unit. All right. If I'm not mistaken, of that same year, right? 2002. Is that right?
No. I think you're talking about Trip.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly.
I don't.
Exactly.
It wasn't 2002. I was on my back in 2002. No, I think it was around 2008 that happened with Trip.
Oh,
Can't be sure, but yes, another quite profound experience. And that was when I went to help a friend who's a very good healer, effective healer. And I went along with her because Trip was in intensive care. I'd never met him before. He was in intensive care, and the doctors had said he wouldn't survive. And we worked on him. And when I first walked into the room, the smell of death was so overpowering. I had to leave the room. I nearly vomited. And I started shaking from head to foot uncontrollably. So I had to go outside, just breathe and just come back in, because it was so powerful, the impact of walking into that room with death so present. Anyway, I did. We went back in and we worked on him, and I went home that evening. And again, it's quite vague now. I mean, it's all in the book, but I went back home and I tuned into him, and I found myself in a white waiting room. And I could see him sitting on this white bench in this absolute clinical, pure white waiting room. And he was waiting. There was a door. And I knew instantly that there was a decision that needed to be made about whether he was staying or he was going. And so I went to that room every evening after I came back from the healing sessions with him. And on the last time I went to that room, the doctors had said he wouldn't survive. And so I went in to do that healing with him. And I whispered to him, and I said to him, Trip, if you're coming back, you have to come back, and you have to come back fast, because they're turning off the machinery. He was hooked up. He was in intensive care, of course. They're turning off the machinery tomorrow. And I was really, really clear. I mean, it was probably far more eloquent than I just said it there. And I went home that evening, and I went to the white waiting room, and he wasn't there. And I thought, he's gone. Anyway, my friend Ursula, who I was going there with, she called me first thing the next morning. She said, a miracle has happened. I said, what do you mean? She said, Trips, come round. He's awake. They've moved him to a ward. He's eating, and he wants to go. he wants to leave the hospital, and yeah, the doctors just don't understand what happened.
Mm-hmm.
So it was powerful.
Mm-hmm. So one of the key, I'm gonna say, cosmic instructions or cosmic mm, highlight about yourself. Could you please share what did you learn about you that you did not know prior going through this healing work?
With Trip,
Yeah.
yeah. What did I learn about myself? I think it was really trusting again, so much about trust with spirit, trusting again what I know, GNO, gnosis, what I know, and always going with that, always going with what I sense, what I feel, what I see psychically, what I hear, and really, really trusting it. I think it's been a long process in this lifetime of, putting the mind to the back burner. And for me personally, always being about gnosis. And I think that's probably not what I learned because I've been on that path, but just these experiences just confirming all the time. The power of spirit, the reality of spirit, that it's not some idealistic concept. I read a piece that had been written by a quite well-known spiritual teacher. I think he wrote it recently. And he said something along the lines of, the humans, are we telling ourselves that something exists out there and it's comfortable and it makes us feel safer? And that's why, we believe something exists out there, but maybe it doesn't. And I was reading his words. I mean, again, it was far more eloquent than that. And I was just feeling it. You can only think that if you've not had direct experience. And I think part of my reasoning for having the direct experiences that I have, and why that is the first chapter of the book, is because when you're sharing these truths with people and you're speaking from personal experience, genuine, authentic, direct personal experience, it conveys that truth in a way that people can really trust, as opposed to ideals and concepts that probably, mostly the case when people are sharing, metaphysics, spirituality, and so forth. So I think for me personally, it was just having to go through, years and years and years of these experiences. Ultimately, I think to be able to write this book and convey, because the book is a transmission. Everything I write, I see as a transmission. For me, the words are actually, ultimately, they're not important. The words are what get people to read the book. But actually, for me, it's the transmission. The book is a transmission. It's a consciousness transmission. And it's coming, and because everything I have experienced is personal. It's like I bring the felt sense. It's not my mind that writes these words. It's I write from my felt sense. And so I believe that when you write from your felt sense, the reader experiences it from their felt sense. So you bypass the reader's mind. And to me, that's when you get deep, deep, deep at soul level and cellular level within the being. And that's where, the deep healing changes can happen. It's not to say that books that are written by great intellects, great minds, quite dry, but great minds. Yes, they're important. Very, very important. But we have enough of those. I think we have too few of the communications that present as a book, but are actual transmissions.
Excellent. And before talking about your truth, because I really find this interesting, you see, anything that goes, let's say, out of the norms or out of the box, I do enjoy um, hearing or listening to these information. So before going to the numbers of dimension that you intuited, I do want to talk about luminous beings. I could relate with what you shared, because I remember in particular case, one of them, when I saw it, took me a while to recognize it because it didn't have a humanoid form, and um, was a yeah, it was a moment where I learned other information as well. That when I knew I was no reinforced that I was not a human per se on here, but I was being coming from other constellations and visiting and having key information as well on Ayati, or known as Aedi. Uh, could you share could you share your perspective and truth with the encounters of those luminous beings?
Mhm. Yeah, thank you. Well, a few people over the years have said to me, "Oh, are you Syrian? Are you Arcturian? Um, Androdaman, Drodaman, Andromeda, that's it, Dian, etc." And I say to myself, "What do I feel?" And I don't feel any resonance there. Where am I from? Where in this vast, extraordinary, uh, mystical reality that is existence with a capital E. And my feeling is I could only respond truthfully, hand on heart, with all I can say to you is I'm from beyond the beyond. I can't name where my soul hovers out of this body. It's kind of its main home, as it were, with a capital H, because we are multi-dimensional, multifaceted beings, as you already know, Tino. So I'm not saying anything to you that you don't already know. So for me, my first encounter with the luminous ones was when I was 16. And I used to just lie down, close my eyes, and I would feel myself being lifted high, 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 high. And when I looked around, there were these beams of light all around me. And I used to just be suspended. My energy body would just be suspended high, 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 somewhere so far from Earth. And these beings, these beautiful forms of light, they were just forms of such love. And this is when I really started to understand the concept of love, because it was a love that I had never even touched on the earth. It's like I felt almost like this love doesn't exist on the earth. What I'm feeling here is there's no words for it. So I would have those experiences, and I had those experiences really from 16 onwards. And when I went to write Clarion Call, they came in so strong, the luminous ones, and that's why I mention them in Clarion Call. They came in so strong, and they definitely helped me write that book. And they're with me all the time. And so where they're from, there is no name. Beings of no name, no, origin that one can name. They're just luminous beings from light that are pure love. That's all I can describe. That's the only way I can describe it.
Excellent. And then again, I could relate. When I saw this, I said, "Oh wow, okay, yeah, this I do relate." So now, dimension. So I'm gonna put out the number 26, but I'll let Nicolya explain. All right, the significance of this. But you see, I just want to read that part of your book. All right, so
Let's do.
uh, at the time of the December solstice of 2021, supra advanced galactic codes will anchor into the planetary art grid to further accelerate the evolutionary awakening of humanity. These goals will be specific to the frequency of 13. So 13, the numerical digits that represent mystery. So that's the portion. So Nicolya, please share and explain your truth about the 26 dimensions.
Right. Again, it's all intuited. So I will tell you now, with my hand on my heart, and anyone that knows me would verify this. I don't read anything. Everything that comes through me comes from somewhere else that's not found in books or articles. I don't read them. So the reason I'm saying that is because, again, this is so intuitive that sometimes I find it hard to say, to come out with the words. It's like when I write, I go into a very deep meditative state and everything comes through me. So when I'm talking like this, I'm very much in my, what I would call my conscious brain. So I can only go so far with this in speaking. So what I can say to you is that I intuited in 2009 that there were 26 dimensions. You know, people were talking a lot about there being 13 dimensions. And I thought, no, there's 26. I don't know why I know. I don't know how I know. I just know there's 26. And so I started to write about those in Clarion Call, which has been included in Love, God and Everything, because Clarion Call is now out of print. So I took the best of the best out of Clarion Call, and I also integrated that into Love, God and Everything. So I knew this. I had this sense, and I had this sense like we were on this evolutionary dimensional trajectory up to 13. And 13 for me was the point of self-transcendence. You know, I talk in the book about self-awareness, self-realization, self-actualization, self-transcendence, you know, these kind of arcs, if you like, of development. And 13, the 13th dimension, and we were, you know, most of humanity is in the third dimension. As we know right now, there are many of us who are in the fifth dimension, and we are bringing in what I call the lower aspects of the sixth dimension, which I write about in the book. So I don't need to talk about that now because it's all in detail there. So if we think about the 13 dimensions in terms of our potential, our potentiality is aspects, and I always say aspects of incarnate soul, because we are not, from my perspective, I don't sense that we are soul incarnate. We are aspects of soul incarnate, because there are aspects of our soul that are in multiverses, in multi-dimensions, simultaneously, having multi-experiences. This is just one aspect of our experience. It's a very important one. It's a little bit like the base chakra. It's great to have the crown chakra, the brow chakra, the throat chakra, the heart chakra, absolutely singing. But if we don't have the solar plexus, the sacral, and the base, especially the base, then we're not in harmony. We're not in a harmonic resonance. So this is a very important place at Earth, you know, for this. And I would say Earth is the physical, is a base chakra. It's a physical, very strong physical chakra in terms of the universal system. So there's this sense that, you know, here we are at the very least at the third dimension, at the very most right now, the fifth dimension, lower sixth dimension, manifesting into this frequency we call Earth. But we're still a long way away from the 13th. So can we even imagine now what the 26th dimension of living at that 26th dimensional consciousness would be like? It's something we can't even comprehend. And this is why I also talk in the book about, and actually I've not touched on this in the book, but it's come since I wrote that book, that sense of, I asked that question, is there a beyond source reality? And when I talk about source, I'm saying in capital letters, source is everything. Love in capitals, God, consciousness, source. Is there a beyond source reality? You know, have we, as far as our, you know, fifth dimensional, lower sixth dimensional minds at the very most, perceived something called source, which the third dimensional world in the age of Pisces perceived and conceived as God? In the fifth dimensional, lower sixth, coming into the age of Aquarius, now we're looking more to less around religion and love, religion and God, and more around love, humanitarianism. So could it be that this 13 dimensions that I speak of takes us all the way to source consciousness? But the other side of the 13th dimension, going to the 26th dimension, is a beyond source consciousness that none of us probably have even an iota of a sense about. Just for myself only right now, just touching, as I touch in the book on that touch, I ask the question, I don't really take it much further because I sense it. I sense there's something beyond source, that we have a vast limitation with our consciousness, with where we're at from an evolutionary perspective in our consciousness. We're very, very limited as to what is really the vastness that we already see as massively vast. And we were just talking about source, but something beyond that. So this whole 26 dimension scenario has been, rolling around in my awareness, my senses since 2009. And then just before I started writing Love, God and Everything, somehow, some way I came across something, and it was, I can't even quote it now because I don't have a scientific mind at all, but it was something around, I've said it in the book and I've said it very clearly, thank goodness, but it was something around the fact that quantum science had discovered this 26, what is something to do with the 26 string, something to do with the DNA, but 26 string something or other. And they'd originally thought it was only 13. I thought, this is amazing, because it's a parallel in terms of what they're discovering in science, or at least questioning and looking into, exploring, to what I've been saying metaphysically. So again, I would have to say to anyone listening, just please read the book, because I have not in any way given that justice or done justice to that, because I can't remember the actual terminology right now, because I'm not in a meditative space. I am when I'm writing. But yeah, very, very interesting parallel, very important parallel at a perfect time, just when I started to write that book, which is why I could include that theory.
Thank you for sharing this, Nicolya. And I like the fact that you mentioned that when you get this information, it's not your mind, but you've been, getting a transmission. So to make the link with it. So on page 131, you brought forward or give recognition that, indigenous people, within their perspective, as we know it, time is cyclical. So you mentioned that you don't have a specific, galactic home, and probably because you've been like in so many places and beyond. So, could you please talk about the great shift, the implication with the changing of DNA and the fact that more and more people are coming to their awakening of their higher abilities and the galactic alignment zone?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. The galactic alignment zone is really, really, really important. And I've seen very little written about it. Again, it's something I intuited in 2009 when I started to write Clarion Call. And the person I ended up speaking to about it was an amazing, amazing cosmologist, John Major Jenkins. And he was actually the person I said, look, I've got this idea about the galactic alignment zone. What are your feelings? What are your thoughts? And he said, absolutely. Now, sadly, John passed on, well, sadly, but I mean, joyfully for him, but for the world, we needed more of him. But yeah, he was with the same conclusion. And that is that basically we are coming to the conclusion. This is so important, and I'm actually going to be putting this out on social media in the next 2 days. It will be far more eloquent than I can word it here in this interview. We're coming to the completion of a 26,000 year galactic cycle. 26,000 years. This is an astronomical, astrological fact. And it's the timing of it is amazing, because we are entering the age of Aquarius now. Now, the Mayans, the ancient Mayans, the classic Mayans, had said that there was, what did they call it? The window of, I can't remember now. It was this window anyway. It was a window. It was a 16-year window, and 36-year window that opened up in, I think it was 1987. My math is terrible. And it closed in 2016. I know it closed in 2016. And I always knew that time, that period of time, which is a blink of an eye, would be the most accelerated period in evolutionary history to date. And that's when a mass awakening would happen. And it did, because you can speak to most people on a spiritual path. If you say, okay, if you look at your journey from 87, if you were alive then, from 1987 to 2016, do you feel that you had like a massive spiritual awakening? And almost every single one of them will say yes. So that was the eye of the needle. That's what they called it, the eye of the needle. And that's when everything went really, really concentrated. And then I knew from 2016, these 5 years, 2016, 17, 18, 19, 21, 5 years, would be instrumental in terms of how much we could achieve as a collective, because it was setting an imprint. And so when we go over that threshold on 21st December 2021, which is so interesting when you think about those figures, like 21st December 2012, it's the same digits. 21st December 2021, we have that closing. And I've always said that what we manage to achieve as a collective is going to be a wave we are going to ride on, a wave we're going to surf for millennia to come. We've set something in motion. So this period of time from when that zone opened, that 36-year window opened, up until it closes, beyond that, which is 5 years on, 2021, it is one of the most pivotal times in human history. And this is why I've felt, and I also feel with what's going on in the world at the moment, everything is accelerated and everything's slamming in really fast, like these kind of negative energies and forces out there, because they know the importance of the times we're in right now, and what can be achieved before that date serves us for millennia to come. So any thwarting, any trying to slam the brakes on to stop us reaching that point as a collective, as an awakened collective, to then carry us forward as a humanity, as I say, for millennia to come, it's coming in all directions to try and stop that process. Now we're only days away from it. We're 4 days away, I think, 17th of December or something. We're 4 days away from the closing of that window. And again, anybody that wants to know the in-depth details of that, read the book, because it's all in there. But it's an essential, very, very important time. We've got some profound, which I've also set out in the book, profound astrological and cosmic influences that are going to be taking place over the next few years. Astrology that absolutely backs up we're moving into a time where the people can become empowered. I talk in the book, I know Jimi Hendrix came out with a statement, I don't know whether it was his, but it just absolutely stuck to me like glue, where we overcoming the love of power with the power of love. And this is the era, if you like, this is the eon we're moving into, the Aquarian, what I call the Lotus eon. We're rising up out of the mud, and this beautiful lotus eon that we can create, we can develop together is, it's upon us. The time is upon us. And, we have the age of Aquarius, have this completely new age, this whole age falling away of Pisces, so much fear, shadow side of fear, of Pisces, fear, illusion, religion, separation, etc., etc. We're coming into this age of Aquarius, which is all about humanitarianism. It's all about freedom. It's all about love. It's about technology too. And the shadow side of that is what we have to be careful of. And I talk about this in the book. I say, for the most part, not completely, but for the most part, humanity lived the shadow of the age of Pisces. Are we going to live the shadow of the Aquarian age? Because we know the shadow of the Aquarian age, one of the biggest concerns with that is artificial intelligence, AI, because the Aquarian age is also about super advanced technologies. And this is what we're going to be facing moving forward. Now, we can source those technologies from nature, from the cosmos, from the galaxy. We've got so many galactic downloads going on at the moment. The planet is saturated in galactic downloads. We have a very instrumental thing going on here as well, which I talk about with, and I'll mention it in the social media post around 21st December coming up, is that we also have on the 19th and the 20th, literally just 1-2 days before that gate closes, we have this full moon opposing the galactic center. Now, the sun and the moon oppose each other. The sun on the galactic center every year around this time. But when there's very rarely a full moon on that date. So this full moon opposing that galactic center is also a completion point. The full moon is always a completion point. And to me, this is just really a microcosm of what's going on a macrocosmic scale in the cosmos in terms of this 26,000 year galactic alignment zone coming to a close.
Thanks for sharing this, Nicolya. So to the people, we are gonna now discuss about the last theme, all right? Because we only have Nicolya for an hour. So Jimi Hendrix talks about it, and you mentioned the power of love for the indigenous people on the American continent who are aware of the prophet Noble Joeli. He also put the emphasis on love. You mentioned, Nicolya, through the encounters with those luminous beings, you discover or rediscover what was the love, but on the higher vibrational frequency. So I'm going to read that section here, and then I'll let you share any intuitive message or updated message that you have on this. So imagine living as love, thinking, feeling, sensing, seeing, hearing, and being love. This is how we heal and transform ourselves. This is how we heal and transform the world. You may go ahead, Nicolya.
Thank you. Yeah, intuitively, I would just say that, the biggest part of my journey has been the message of my work fundamentally is to remember who we really are, why we are really here, and where we are really from. And that's love. We are from love. We are love, and to love we shall return, as I say in the book. And it's not a cliche, it's not just some kind of, throwaway statement. It's absolutely who we are. And that's what the luminous ones showed me. When I was 16, I first met them, they were just love. I just couldn't even conceive of that kind of love. Never, ever could I have conceived of it. So it's who we are. It's what we're here to be. It's who we're here to be. It's what we're here to bring. And we know, and it's so simple. We know that the answer to all of the ills in the world is love. If only we could do that. But you see, we're also caught up on this collective evolutionary trajectory. And, different aspects of global society are at different levels of their psycho-spiritual awakening and development. And still we have the awakened ones as the microcosm on a macrocosmic scale. So how do we, in our, if you like, our microcosm by comparison, how do we affect enough of an impact, enough of an influence to help bring heaven to earth, to help create heaven on earth, which is what we're here to do, to transform this planet into not the planet itself, but the consciousness that has existed on this planet since year dot, into a reflection of that which is in heaven. And it's love. And we're here to love and to love even more. When we think we've loved enough, love even more. That's that edge, when a runner runs and they think, okay, I've gone as far as I can. No, I'm just going to go another lap. I'm going to push it just that bit more. The burn, I think they call it the burn, in the most beautiful way. The burn here is love as much as we can, and then love even more. And when we're loving and when we're in love, then we are absolutely aligned with spirit, with source, with soul. And we're living, our purpose. And when we leave this body one day, we're able to cross that threshold and say, I did. People say, I don't know what I'm here for. So many people say, I don't know why I'm here. What can I contribute to life? It's like, you're here just to be love. If you can just be love, then you've achieved everything that you could ever hope to, that your the elders, the councils of elders, the guides in spirit, whoever could ever have hoped for you in this lifetime, your soul could ever have hoped for, is if you can just be love. That's all you need to do. I'll just say one other thing. I remember when my mum was really ill. I think I did write about this. My mum, she passed in 2017, a very sad situation. She ended up having to live in a residential unit, and I spent most of my time there with her. And the people that were there, they called carers, the carers that were there, they knew nothing about conscious evolution. They knew very little, if anything, about, in quotes, spirituality, metaphysics. And yet I learned something so powerful there, because I've seen so much in the spiritual community, people talking about love, talking about spirituality, talking about metaphysics, and so split off that there's this shadow side that never gets looked at. And yet when I went into that place and I saw these people working God knows what hours, absolutely relentless, but the love, and I just remember watching and just thinking, these people are love personified. Not all of them, obviously, some of them didn't like what they were doing, but for the most part, they did. Such expressions of pure love. And for me, I thought, my God, that person there who looks worn to the bone is a personification of love. The way they are treating that human being, the way they treat their fellow human beings, this is a personification of love. To me, is as spiritual as, somebody who's a monk or a nun, or a spiritual disciple or whatever. I just felt really, really strongly that it's all about love. We get away from all the concepts. We don't need all the concepts ultimately. We just need to remember that this is all that's important. It's the only thing we ever need to know, is that we're love, be love other people, be here as love, be in service of love, and leave your mark, leave your legacy of love on this earth, because that's what we're remembered for, nothing else. We're remembered for, how much love we gave and how much love we left in our wake.
Thank you for this, beautiful explanation. All right, about love. Nicolya, do you mind if I share your website on the screen?
No, it'd be wonderful. Thank you so much.
Okay, good. So, for the people, so you've been hearing, or you're gonna hear, all right, Nicolya, the intel that she shared about the OBEs of the body experiences, all right, and what she learned as well through her healing, experience. And you hear love, galactic, alignment, all right, and really about raising your vibrational frequencies. Good. So this is Nicolya Christi website, all right. So the visionary, futurist, and author. All right, so you could go check on her articles, the blogs, videos, article as well. She has on her website audio, free audio, all right, about meditation prayers and other interesting topics, all right, notably about love, okay. And you'll be able to check under maps and models, all right, regarding the dimensions that she talked about, the 12 phases of ascension, and other, all right, key component as the 5, the 6 C's, the 3 C's. So this is Nicolya Christi, all right, now website. So it's nicolyachristi.love, all right. So regarding no, with that being said, we're coming to an end of the show. So Nicolya, with all the experiences that you went through, or you're continuing actually to go through, would you share, especially I'm gonna say the beings, but especially for women, especially in these times where you mentioned there's like a leap of vibrational frequencies, that's been transmitted through our constellations. Could you share any words of wisdoms, especially for the women that's on the path of rediscovering actually their higher abilities, or they're actually going through, some breakthrough moments, to and how to cope with the influx sometimes of information, experiences on a metaphysical level.
Yeah. I mean, I think I understand your question. I'll respond how I feel, naturally to respond. Maybe I misunderstood your question, but here we go. Let me know if I didn't get it. What I would say is what's really important, because there is so much coming at us at the moment. And at these times, everything is accelerating, everything is speeding up. The most important thing is to stay grounded. This is instrumental, because if we're not grounded, somebody once said a long, long time ago that if we were to encounter, for example, Yeshua, his light would be so bright, it would burn us. And it's the same with information. When there's so much information coming, there's so many codes, there's so much coming in, that we have to stay grounded. So in staying grounded, stay connected with nature. Even if you live in a city, find the nearest park, go and walk in the park. If you don't have a park nearby, there's a garden nearby, go and if you have a garden, sit in the garden. If you don't have a garden, get plants, sit with the plants, communicate with the plants. Just sit with the plant. Maybe put a hand on the branch of a plant, close your eyes and just connect with it, because they will help you ground. Groundedness is the most important thing I can say in these times, because otherwise we have what I call balloon syndrome. We're just up there in the air and we're good for nobody and nothing if we can't keep ourselves grounded. So anything that can keep you grounded is really, really important. Don't get too in one's head with everything that's coming in. Balance in everything. So, go for walks, hands on the earth, feet on the earth. You just do, everyday things that just bring you joy, small amounts of joy, homeopathic doses of joy, perfect. And just keep everything in balance if you can. Heaven and earth, perfectly balanced. That's the balanced being. Then you can take as much information in as you can, because you're grounding it all the time. So important. Write. If you've got an overflow, the mind's going really fast, write things down, close the book, put it somewhere sacred, breathe, exhale. Because we need to keep our minds quite empty. We need to be, as much as possible, pure vessels. We don't want to be full of clutter, whether it's junk food, whether it's, excess thinking. Just nice and calm, nice and empty, nice and zen, and balanced.
Thank you, Nicolya. So to the people, it's been really an awesome and memorable moments to share, or to hear, listen, all right, and learn about Nicolya's journey, her different and numerous OBEs, out of body experiences, and key intel as well, all right, on the fact when she gets transmissions, she just put her all confidence, knowing that that's her truth. And what we saw about healing works, galactic alignment zone, and I'm gonna say the one of the key topics, the concept of cosmic love. So then again, you can go check her website. So it's nicolyachristi.love. So NicolyaChristi.love. So thank you for the people of being here, anyone that's were on the chat. So session 42 with Nicolya Christi. So Nicolya, I thank you very much, from the from me, the being, all right, coming here on earth. I appreciate the message that you transferred, the intel that you shared with myself and the people. So Thank you for doing this.
Oh, thank you very much. It's been a real joy. Thank you so much.
And most notably, thanks to all the people that's on here that's going to watch it. And one of the key things, cosmic love, research it. And you heard the words of wisdom by Nicolya. Stay grounded. All right. So thank you, people. And thank you, Nicolya.
Thank you.